In 2012, paparazzi first noticed changes, a fuller face, different features, and she stayed silent as speculation grew louder. But Meg's story began long before the tabloids. Born Margaret Mary Emily and Hyra on November 19, 1961 in Fairfield, Connecticut, she grew up in a quiet, book-filled home. Her mother, Susan, left for New York to pursue acting when Meg was 15. That departure left a lasting ache and shaped how she viewed loyalty and trust. She worked hard at school, won scholarships, and eventually studied in New York to build her own stability. Commercials and small parts led to a break. Betsy Montgomery on As the World Turns in 1981. She adopted the stage name Meg Ryan and learned the rough edges of show business. Early missteps, low-budget films, and relentless auditions. After a tough turn in a horror flick, she trained at the Lee Strasberg Institute and kept pushing. By the mid-'80s, she began landing bigger roles. Top Gun, 1986, put her face in front of millions. Some films failed, others expanded her range. On Inner Space, she met Dennis Quaid. They married in 1991. She took risks, from the claustrophobic effects of inner space to the dark intensity of DOA, and sometimes needed therapy to process the work's emotional toll. Her deli scene in When Harry Met Sally, 1989, became iconic, improvised, nervy, and unforgettable. The line, "I'll have what she's having," cemented her rom-com persona, and Sleepless in Seattle, 1993, made her a household name and one of Hollywood's top earners. But fame came with panic and relentless paparazzi. She pushed physically and emotionally for her roles, dislocating her shoulder during the Empire State Building sequence and finishing the tour in a sling. And she prepared for When a Man Loves a Woman in 1994 by attending AA meetings, a role that hit close to home and nearly pushed her into relapse. Meg also took unexpected turns, voicing Anastasia, diving into Oliver Stone's Adores, and balancing light comedy with darker, riskier parts. Through it all, she kept a private interior life, while the public parsed her every choice. So when late-night lists of cosmetic surgeries appeared and plastic surgeons speculated, no single explanation captured it. Meg Ryan's life, from a fragile childhood moment to the dizzying highs of stardom and the quiet struggle behind the scenes, is more complex than any tabloid theory. Her chemistry with Tom Hanks in You've Got Mail 1998 felt effortless. They traded playful emails for 6 months before shooting, so the romance would read soft and natural. The film grossed $250 million worldwide and cemented her as the queen of romantic comedy. But on set, tension simmered. Clashes with Parker Posey grew so sharp they nearly turned physical, and Ryan asked for script changes after feeling personally attacked. Still, the final film's sweetness smoothed over the hard work. That same year, she starred in City of Angels, performing long, raw crying takes, sometimes 50 or more, and spending weeks living in grief for the role. The climactic death scene on Old Mill Road left her physically trembling after takes and revealed a new, dramatic side of her to audiences. Outside the cameras, her life was fracturing. She married Dennis Quaid on February 14, 1991, after meeting on Inner Space in 1988. The wedding in Paris looked magical, but Quaid's struggles with addiction and repeated rehab stints soon exposed deep cracks. On April 24, 1992, Ryan gave birth to their son Jack Henry after a grueling 28-hour labor that ended in an emergency C-section. The strain contributed to hidden postpartum depression that she later spoke about in therapy. Quaid's infidelities, discovered across the 1990s, and relapses made holidays and work tense. A 1997 relapse culminated in a violent outburst that damaged property. Ryan shielded Jack from the press, but the marriage was damaged beyond repair. She filed for separation in 2000 and the divorce finalized in 2001 after an intense custody battle that left her primary guardian and receiving monthly support. Ryan returned to set for Proof of Life, 1999, playing a kidnapped wife opposite Russell Crowe. The on-set chemistry turned into a 9-month affair. While she was still married, paparazzi photographed a $5,000 earring Crowe gave her, and tabloids fed the story. Quaid publicly labeled her the other woman, and media scrutiny intensified. The film underperformed, and the scandal cost her projects. Miramax canceled a $12 million rom-com deal, citing damage to her image. Ryan later called the affair a product of long-building emotional weakness. In early 2001, Crowe proposed in Sydney with a 10-carat ring, but jealousy and old alliances fractured the relationship. Ryan left for New York and vowed not to mix romance and co-stars again. As the headlines swirled, she pushed back in a Vanity Fair interview, revealing that Quaid's infidelities long predated Crowe. Public opinion, however, had already begun to shift. Career setbacks followed. Hanging Up 2000 flopped, and reports of custody-related tardiness damaged her reputation. Kate and Leopold 2001 underperformed. Director James Mangold even added therapy scenes to help her cope on camera. In 2003, she took a risky, raw role opposite Mark Ruffalo to escape typecasting. Critics and audiences reacted strongly, and the movie lost significant money. A physically demanding project left her with broken ribs in 2004. Studio delays and pay cuts followed as studios found her difficult to market. She directed and starred in The Women, 2008. But behind-the-scenes fights and poor box office returns left the film pilloried. By 2009, she stepped back from acting to regroup. Between 2010 and 2014, she lived quietly in New York, focusing on raising Jack and shielding him from Hollywood. He appeared in Adventureland, 2009, and later pursued acting more seriously. She helped him privately, refusing to attach her name to his early audition work. Paparazzi photos in 2012 sparked rumors about cosmetic procedures. She neither confirmed nor denied the speculation. In 2015, Ryan directed Ithaca, funding part of the $5 million budget herself and filming in 25 days. Tom Hanks made a cameo. She also appeared in the indie Fangirl, which had a limited festival release. She studied directing at Sundance Labs and continued reshaping her career behind the camera. Her personal life remained rocky. A long on-and-off relationship with John Mellencamp from 2010 to 2019 ended after emotional strains and public drama. Jack's career later found traction with The Boys in 2019, a development Ryan supported quietly and protectively. She returned to screens with What Happens Later, released November 3rd, 2023, a film she directed and starred in on a $2 million budget. It earned $3.4 million worldwide. That modest success marked the start of a different phase. Not a frantic comeback, but a careful re-entry. In 2025, she presented Best Picture at the Oscars with Billy Crystal, an appearance that reignited scrutiny about her looks and sparked overdue conversations about aging in Hollywood. Later that year, she spoke candidly on a podcast about body dysmorphia, the fallout from her affair and divorce, and the emotional cost of fame, an honesty that resonated with many and shifted the tone of public discussion. What the headlines missed was how deliberate her work had become. After a very public breakup, Ryan withdrew from tabloid noise and returned to the thing that anchored her, storytelling. She chose small, focused projects that allowed her to work closely with collaborators she trusted. What Happens Later was shot with a lean crew and a cast of friends. The intimacy of the set mirrored the film's tone and reminded audiences why they had connected with her performances in the first place. Motherhood shaped those choices. When Jack began to make his own way, Ryan's instinct was simple: protect and empower. She offered guidance about scripts and agents, negotiated quietly when necessary, and kept his life off social feeds and press cycles. Refusing to include him in projects that echoed family fights was not avoidance, but stewardship. She wanted him to grow without being defined by their history or used as currency in public battles. In 2024, she launched a production company, a shift from performer to curator. The company focused on human stories rather than sensational headlines. She backed new writers, supported first-time directors, and insisted on humane working practices. When she decided to executive produce and narrate a Netflix series on classic Hollywood scandals slated for late 2025, she framed it as a study of power, image, and consequence, a chance to interrogate the system that shaped her rather than to repackage it for entertainment. Her public honesty about body dysmorphia and public shaming changed the tenor of conversation. The podcast episode did not erase criticism after the Oscars, but it redirected attention. Rather than remarking only on appearance, listeners began to engage with questions about mental health and recovery. By naming her struggles, she transformed a private reckoning into a collective conversation and made it easier for others to speak. Reinvention for Ryan looked like steady, practical work. Waking early to read scripts, hosting table reads at her kitchen table, mentoring young artists in small rehearsal rooms, and learning production logistics so she could protect the atmosphere on set. Those small disciplines rebuilt trust with herself and with collaborators, and gave her the confidence to make choices rooted in values rather than panic. Now in her early 60s, Ryan moves with a calm that comes from enduring storms and making conscious choices about what to reveal and what to guard. Her career is less a headline comeback and more a steady becoming, a reminder that creativity can be reclaimed, that vulnerability can be brave, and that authenticity can reshape a conversation. She has turned private pain into public purpose and, in doing so, offers a quieter, braver blueprint for reinvention, one measured by care, craft, and an insistence on mentoring the next generation. She mentors emerging filmmakers, invests in projects that center empathy, and speaks about craft and care, small acts that, over time, become a meaningful artistic legacy and resilience.